There comes a time when your silence becomes louder than any words you could ever speak. A time when stepping back is not surrender, it's strategy. You've given your energy, your love, your attention, your effort, sometimes more than you should have. And still, they didn't see your worth. They mistook your kindness for weakness. Your presence became background noise, but that ends now. Silence is powerful. It is a language of its own, a form of communication that often says more than words ever could. In a world constantly buzzing with opinions, arguments, noise, and distractions, silence has become rare, almost unsettling. Yet, that very discomfort is what gives it power. When used with intention, silence can shift dynamics, command attention, and restore personal peace. People often misunderstand silence as weakness or passivity. They associate talking with strength and see silence as retreat. But silence is not surrender, it is control. When you remain quiet in a moment, when everyone expects a reaction, you take away their power. You own the moment. You turn the tables. It's speak out in anger to defend yourself when you're accused, to argue and provoke. But silence takes discipline. It requires emotional intelligence. It shows maturity and self-mastery, the kind that speaks volumes without saying a word. There is a kind of silence that commands respect. Think of the person in the room who doesn't speak often, but when they do, everyone listens. Their silence has given weight to their presence. They don't need to compete for attention. They own it simply by knowing when to hold back. That's not accidental. That's intentional power. Silence is also a mirror. When you choose not to respond to someone who expects you to, they're left to reflect on their own words and actions. They begin to wonder, to question, to feel uncertainty, and in that space, they face themselves something that words often protect them from. Your silence can force them to sit in the discomfort of their own choices. It's a way of saying, you're not worth the energy right now without needing to say it. That hits deeper than any insult. Moreover, silence protects your peace. Not every opinion needs a response. Not every argument deserves your time. When you stop reacting to every little thing, you reclaim your mental clarity. You stop allowing others to control your emotions. Silence gives you space to think, to breathe, to choose how you want to act rather than react. That choice is everything. In a loud world, the one who remains composed stands out. That person becomes unshakable. Silence is also the birthplace of transformation. In solitude and quiet, you meet yourself. You face your doubts, fears, truths, and dreams. Growth often happens in silence, not in the noise of applause or conflict, but in the quiet moments where you gather your strength, set your boundaries, and realign with your purpose. When the world turns chaotic, silence is where you find your center again. Sometimes silence is more painful to others than anger. When you step back and stop explaining yourself, people are left with their assumptions. And sometimes that's exactly what they need. Let them fill in the blanks. Let them feel the distance. Let them wonder what you're thinking, what you're planning. Silence becomes mystery, and mystery commands curiosity and fear. You become unpredictable. That's power. Ultimately, silence is not about being voiceless. It's about choosing when your voice matters most. It's about timing, discernment, and strength. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not every situation needs your defense. Your silence can be the loudest message you ever send. It can be the turning point in how people treat you and how you treat yourself. It's not retreat. It's strategy. It's not absence. It's presence in a more potent form. Because silence, when used with purpose, isn't empty. It's full of truth, power, and undeniable clarity. Stepping back is not weakness. It is a powerful act of self-awareness and control. In a society that glorifies constant action, hustle, and dominance, the idea of pulling away can be misinterpreted as surrender or failure. But the truth is, stepping back often requires more strength than pushing forward. It's not about giving up. It's about choosing your battles, preserving your energy, and reassessing your direction. It's about recognizing that not all fights are worth fighting and not every situation deserves your immediate presence. When you take a step back, you gain perspective. Being too close to a problem can cloud your judgment. Emotions run high, thoughts become tangled, and decisions can be rushed, but distance clears the fog. It allows you to observe the situation from a higher vantage point. You begin to see not only what is happening, but why it's happening. You can distinguish between what truly matters and what is just noise. That clarity is something you rarely achieve when you're in constant motion, trying to control or fix everything in real time. Stepping back is also a way of reclaiming power. It says, I choose when and how I engage. It's a refusal to be dragged into every argument, every misunderstanding, every chaotic situation that demands a reaction. It shows that you are not easily provoked, that you do not operate on anyone else's timeline but your own. People often confuse dominance with power, but real power lies in restraint. To stay calm when you're expected to erupt, to remain silent when you're expected to defend yourself, to walk away when you're expected to chase, that is strength. Moreover, stepping back creates space for growth. When you're constantly reacting or pushing forward, you have no room to evolve. But when you pause, you make space for reflection, healing, and transformation. You start to understand your own patterns, your limits, your values. You get the opportunity to ask yourself whether what you're pursuing is truly aligned with who you are. Sometimes the most important realizations come not in the rush of doing, but in the stillness of stepping away. That stillness is where true change begins. There's also a form of protection in stepping back. It shields your peace from people and situations that are draining, toxic, or manipulative. Not every relationship needs to be saved. Not every environment is meant to be endured. When you step back, you send a message that your well-being matters, that you will not allow your energy to be depleted by people who don't respect it. Some people won't understand this shift. They might call you distant, cold, or selfish. But in truth, you are simply choosing yourself. You are prioritizing your mental clarity, your emotional stability, your long-term vision. The strongest individuals are not those who never falter, but those who know when to pause, when to retreat, and when to regroup. Even in nature, the tide pulls back before it surges forward. Stepping back is not an end, it's preparation. It's a moment to gather strength, to refine your strategy, and to choose your next move with intention. In that pause, you build resilience, you regain control, you stop living in reaction and start moving with purpose. Stepping back, then, is far from weakness. It is the wisdom to know that presence is most powerful when it is purposeful. It is the courage to disconnect so you can reconnect with yourself. And it is the quiet, confident assertion that you don't need to prove your strength to anyone because you know it's already there. Value is recognized in absence because presence, when constant, often becomes invisible. Human nature has a tendency to take for granted what is always there. The people, efforts, and things we see every day blend into the background, no matter how important they are. We assume they'll always be there, that their roles in our lives are permanent, and that they require no acknowledgement. But when they're gone, when their voice, support, or energy is no longer available, the void they leave behind speaks volumes. That absence forces us to confront what we failed to appreciate when it was right in front of us. When someone is consistently kind, reliable, and giving, their behavior becomes expected. It's not that others don't value it at all. It's that familiarity dulls perception. The daily good gets overlooked because it becomes routine. You don't notice how much someone lifts your spirit until their silence replaces their words. You don't realize how much comfort their presence brings until the seat they usually fill is empty. You don't understand how deeply woven they are into your life until you try to move forward without their presence, and everything feels off balance. That is when true value begins to show itself, when it is no longer within reach. Absence creates contrast. It draws attention to what used to be effortless and turns it into something you now long for. This is not just about people, it's true for experiences, opportunities, and even parts of ourselves that we've lost touch with. We begin to recognize what we once had only after it's been removed from our lives. The friend who always checked in, the partner who understood without words, the mentor who challenged us. When these people step back, their absence becomes a mirror. It reflects everything they added to our lives that we failed to name when they were present. We finally feel the weight of their presence through the echo of their silence. People often realize too late what someone meant to them. Words left unsaid, gratitude left unspoken, and gestures left unnoticed come rushing back when the person is no longer available to receive them. That's when regret sets in. Regret is born from absence. It surfaces when we can no longer express what we should have said or done. It forces reflection. It rewrites memories with a new lens, making us see the depth of what we once overlooked. The warmth of consistency, the safety of loyalty, the impact of quiet support will become clear when they disappear. There is a reason why some of the most meaningful realizations come after distance. Absence interrupts the flow. It disrupts the pattern and draws a bold line between what was and what now is. In that space, people begin to think, they begin to feel, and often they begin to regret. Suddenly, the moments they brushed off become sacred. The gestures they ignored become significant. The presence they once took for granted becomes something they would do anything to have back. That's the power of absence. It forces people to face the truth of what they lost. But this truth also holds power for the one who steps away. When you remove yourself from a space where you are undervalued, you allow others the opportunity to recognize your worth. It is not about punishing or manipulating, it is about reclaiming your energy. Sometimes your constant availability teaches others that they don't need to earn your presence. But when you step back, when you create space, you allow room for realization. You give others the chance to miss what you brought into their lives. And if your value is real, and it always was, they will feel that absence deeply. It will teach them what your words never could. Don't chase what doesn't value you, because the act of chasing something or someone that fails to see your worth is a betrayal of your own self-respect. It's easy to get caught up in trying to prove your value to people who ignore it, to hold on to things that have already let you go, or to fight for a place where you were never truly welcomed. But that chase is draining. It eats away at your confidence, your peace, and your sense of identity. No one should have to convince someone else to see their worth, appreciate their presence, or reciprocate their efforts. When something values you, it doesn't require you to beg, to prove, or to shrink yourself just to fit in. Chasing after what doesn't value you puts you in a position of constant rejection and frustration. You keep giving, hoping that the next gesture, the next word, the next sacrifice will finally be enough to change someone's mind. You become addicted to potential instead of accepting the reality. But potential is not a promise. It is an idea, a hope that one day things might change, that one day you might be enough for them. The truth is, if someone cannot see your value now, no amount of chasing will make them realize it. You'll only find yourself running in circles, tired and empty, while they remain indifferent. It is not your job to fix people who can't love you the right way. It's not your duty to educate someone into treating you with respect or to wait endlessly for them to realize what they had. Your energy is sacred, and where you invest it determines the quality of your life. Giving that energy to people who misuse it not only hurts you, it also prevents you from aligning with those who truly appreciate and honor it. Every time you chase what doesn't value you, you step further away from what will. There is a quiet strength in walking away from anything that doesn't value you. It requires courage to stop running after people who never once turned around. It takes dignity to stand still and say, if you can't see my worth, then I won't force you. That strength comes from knowing your own value. When you truly understand what you bring to the table, your kindness, your loyalty, your heart, you stop trying to convince others of it. You become more selective with your time, more protective of your peace, and more committed to your growth. People and opportunities that genuinely value you won't require you to chase them. They'll meet you halfway. They'll reciprocate your energy without manipulation or delay. They'll see you clearly without needing you to change or beg. And if they don't, let them go. Let them live their life while you continue to build yours. Detaching from what doesn't value you is not bitterness, it's wisdom. It means you've learned that not everything that captures your attention is worth your effort. It's better to be alone than to be surrounded by people who don't appreciate you. Solitude gives you time to reflect, to heal, and to reconnect with your worth. In that stillness, you remember who you are. You stop chasing, and instead you attract. You attract peace, respect, and love, not because you demanded it, but because you stopped accepting anything less. That shift changes everything. It realigns your path. It opens the door for real connection, for real opportunities, and for the life you deserve. So don't chase what doesn't value you. Walk away with your head held high, knowing that letting go is not a loss, it's a step toward everything that's meant for you. Let the void speak for you, because silence carries a weight that words often cannot match. There is something undeniably powerful about removing your presence from a space where your value was taken for granted. In that emptiness, a message begins to echo, one that is louder, clearer, and more honest than any confrontation could ever deliver. When you stop explaining yourself, stop defending your actions, stop begging to be understood or appreciated, you shift the power dynamic. You let the absence itself do the talking, and in that void, people are forced to face the truth they ignored when you were present. When you constantly explain your worth, you dilute it. When you overextend to make someone see you, hear you, or understand you, you slowly lose the energy that should be reserved for people who naturally value your existence. The more you try to make someone appreciate your presence, the more they assume it will always be there. But the moment you step back, truly and intentionally, you create a space they didn't know they needed to feel. That space is not filled with noise or accusations, it's filled with realization. The void you leave behind is not empty, it is full of everything you once gave. Your kindness, your time, your consistency, your loyalty, all of it lingers in that space. And only when it's gone do people begin to notice what they were receiving all along. They replay conversations, remember your efforts, feel the missing energy, and suddenly what was once dismissed becomes significant. This is the voice of the void. It whispers in the silence, reminding them of what they no longer have, not out of spite, but out of truth. And that truth is often far more humbling than any speech or emotional plea could be. Letting the void speak for you is not about manipulation or punishment, it's about boundaries. It is the decision to stop engaging with people who only respond when you make noise. It is the decision to no longer validate someone who failed to recognize your presence until it disappeared. The void is not about creating guilt, it's about allowing clarity. It gives others the chance to see themselves, to notice the imbalance, to reflect on their behavior without your influence. It forces them to question what went wrong, what they missed, and what they could have done differently. That reflection is where growth begins if they're willing to face it. You don't have to announce your departure for it to be felt. The quietest exits often have the loudest echoes. And those who truly care, those who are just unaware, will feel that silence in their bones. They will notice the empty space where your voice once was, your support once stood, and your presence once brought comfort. They will begin to understand that your presence was never owed, and that access to you was a privilege, not a right. Letting the void speak for you is also an act of self-preservation. It allows you to reclaim your emotional energy without creating more damage. You don't need to yell, argue, or prove your pain. You simply step away, and in doing so, you protect your peace. You make room for healing, for growth, and for better connections in the future. The void becomes not only a lesson for them, but a gift for yourself, a space where you no longer have to explain why you deserve to be treated with respect. Ultimately, the void has a language of its own. It speaks in the silence of unanswered texts, in the stillness of a seat left empty, in the quiet absence of your once dependable presence. And when people finally listen, they understand. Maybe too late, maybe just in time. But either way, the message is clear. Your absence has a voice. Let it speak. Respect is earned, not demanded, because true respect comes from recognition of character, consistency, and integrity, not from fear, titles, or loud voices. You cannot force someone to truly respect you by insisting on it, by raising your voice, or by expecting it to come automatically. Respect is something that grows when others witness how you carry yourself, how you treat people, and how you stand firm in your values even when no one is watching. It is built slowly through moments of honesty, reliability, and grace under pressure. And once earned, it holds far more weight than anything demanded by force or ego. Many people believe that respect should be given simply because of age, status, or position. While these things may call for a level of courtesy, they don't guarantee true respect. Titles can be given, authority can be assigned, but the kind of respect that runs deep, the kind that comes with admiration and trust, has to be earned. It comes from actions, not appearances. You earn respect by listening when others speak, by showing up when it matters, by keeping your word, and by treating others with fairness and dignity, regardless. Respect is also rooted in how you treat yourself. People mirror the energy you bring. If you respect your own boundaries, time, and worth, others will be more inclined to do the same. But if you tolerate disrespect, constantly explain yourself, or allow others to mistreat you without consequence, you're teaching them that your self-respect is negotiable. When you carry yourself with quiet confidence, when you know your worth and act accordingly, you don't have to ask for respect, it naturally follows. Demanding respect often comes from a place of insecurity. It is a loud attempt to make others acknowledge something you may not fully believe in yourself. But real respect doesn't respond to force. It responds to presence. It responds to calm confidence, to the ability to remain composed in chaos, to the strength of someone who doesn't need to put others down to stand tall. When people see that you don't waver under pressure, that you handle both success and failure with humility, they begin to respect you not just for what you say, but for who you are. You also earn respect by respecting others. It's a two-way street. The person who demands respect while belittling others, manipulating outcomes, or speaking without listening will never hold the respect they crave. It might look like control, but it's not respect, it's fear or compliance. And the moment that power fades, so does the illusion of admiration. On the other hand, when you uplift others, treat everyone with the same decency regardless of their status, and take responsibility for your mistakes, people don't forget it. That kind of respect stays because it's built on mutual understanding and truth. Respect also endures when it's earned. When people respect you for your consistency, your integrity, and your authenticity, that respect can weather disagreements, challenges, and even time apart. It's not based on superficial things that fade, it's rooted in something deeper. And that kind of respect can't be faked or rushed. It requires patience, commitment, and a willingness to walk the harder path, especially when no one is watching. In a world where many people chase attention and admiration, choosing to earn respect through steady character is rare and valuable. It might not get instant applause, but it builds something far more lasting. So instead of demanding respect, live in a way that commands it through action, consistency, and truth. Let your life be the loudest voice in the room.